Absolutely. Mike, I hope you're doing okay.
Doing great, Teresa. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm surviving. What is your biggest challenge with losing rookie minicamp? I mean, last year you got Isaiah Mack out of that group, if I'm remembering correctly. How big of a loss can that be for the team and maybe for players who aren't getting their chance due
Yeah,
to the virus?
I would really say probably the players. I think that's probably where it's going to matter the most. Not that there hasn't been, tryout guys that have been found and have made it. Obviously, Adam Humphries and Isaiah Mack. I thought that he was under contract before that, but it wouldn't matter, Teresa. Hopefully, we can find a way as a league to do something with training camp to give some of those players that for whatever reason in this environment, in a normal environment, fall through the cracks, and give them an opportunity to come out and work out and try out. And again, we'll also be able to, I would imagine, do tryouts like we would during training camp anyways, outside of our normal practices. But what that allowed them to do would be to come in and practice and be in our meetings. And so if we can't have that, then we'll have to try some guys out and work them out on the field and make evaluations there and see if they're deserving of one of those 90 spots.
John Glennon.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, John.
I wonder if you could talk about the virtual OTAs a little bit. Maybe how they've gone, if you've made adjustments as you've gone along, if things have worked well or not worked well in them, and I guess how productive you've seen them be so far.
Okay. Well, we're not in the OTA phase yet. We're not there. I don't think, we would be in phase one now, heading into phase two, which is still some meetings and would have been some on-field instruction with coaches. But as far as the meetings, I think they've been great. I've been extremely pleased with how our coaches have found ways to teach and to test and to interact with the players. I think the players have been engaged. They've been locked in. We haven't been going too long. Try to keep them as small group as we possibly can. We're in the process of integrating our rookies into those veteran meetings as well as having separate meetings for the rookies. So that'll go on next week. We'll integrate the rookies into some of those veteran meeting rooms now that we feel like they're somewhat caught up to speed. It's important that they're around those veterans and they get to know them and see them and listen to them and kind of understand how quickly they know the information. And then we'll continue with the rookie player engagement, rookie development program with Chicky Giassi and his staff, Dr. Sheila Peters and Mitch, our team chaplain. Really impressed with what they do for our rookies and as far as the transition goes. So we're always going to try to change things that we don't like, but as of now, I think that things have gone well and continue through with the installation program that we would have been had we been able to go out on the field here in a couple weeks.
Jim Wyatt.
Mike, appreciate your time. Hope you're doing well. I know you've liked to, work with other teams in the preseason. Now that the schedule's out, is that still a possibility? Is there some that remains to be seen there? And have you had any discussions?
Yeah, there have been some discussions. Again, I think that I would anticipate, once we get a little more clarity on what that training camp looks like, that I'm hopeful that we'll be able to practice with one, if not two teams.
Corey Curtis.
Hey, Mike. Just a question about camp. Obviously, COVID-19 is unpredictable in how it's going to go in Nashville. Have you had to make any plans for possibly taking training camp somewhere else? And if so, where would you go?
No, not at this time. And I would anticipate, I'm going to concentrate on the things that I can control, which are our meetings, which are our players, communication with our players. And the things that I can't control, I'm not going to put too much time or energy into it. And when the NFL, gives us a direction, then we're going to try to follow it the best that we can. This is a serious time, and it's a sensitive time. So I'm going to focus on what I can control with our football team. And then when we get some direction from the league, we'll always do right by the players. There's nothing more important than the health and safety of our football players and their families. So when we get some more clarity, then we'll try to give you guys some more answers.
David Beauclair.
Hey, Mike, I'm curious,
Hi, David.
how challenging is it for a guy like Ryan Tannehill when he gets the big contract to not feel like he has to do a whole lot more or something differently now? And have you had any conversations with him in that regard?
Ryan's a veteran quarterback, and I don't think he tried to do anything differently last year other than to execute our offense and lead. And that was plenty. So I would anticipate him preparing to do the same type of thing, but from the onset, and as opposed to kind of working his way into it.
Joe Rexrode.
Mike, you said Chris Jackson was an easy one on the day you guys drafted him in terms of everyone kind of agreeing that he was a guy that you would target there. What about him as a player and person made him an easy choice there?
Well, there's a versatility there, Joe. I think he's a very, very humble player. Was a under-recruited player out of high school. Really love his play demeanor, how hard he plays. He's been engaged in meetings. He was fun to work with in a rookie minicamp. That was a lot of fun having those guys together on a virtual setting to get to know each other and to get to know us as coaches and as an organization. It was cool for Miss Amy to be able to come on and visit with those players. So he's been engaged, he's been locked in, and he's studying and trying to prepare for when we can go out on the field and he can, give himself a chance to try to lock into one of these positions. But he did show some versatility, which John and I covet.
Paul Kaharski.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Paul.
Wondering how much you think Jonnu and Ryan are gaining by being able to be together, and how much you imagine that might pay dividends for you once everybody gets together and during the season.
Well, I'm glad that our players that are within the same area are being trying to interact and engage with each other. They seem, when I watch these guys in the meetings, there's good dialogue. There's excellent dialogue. Jonnu continues to improve. I'm sure Ryan is enjoying the building a relationship with Jonnu outside of the meetings. And again, at the end of the day, quarterbacks, they want to know that guys are going to be in the right spots, and the quarterbacks are the ones that tell them, hey, be here on this route. There's arrows and there's diagrams, but at the end of the day, all the great quarterbacks and tight end and receiver combinations that I've seen or know is the quarterback tells him where he wants him, and that's where he's going to throw the football. So, hopefully that they're able to work on some of those things, and Ryan and Jonnu can stay in shape and motivated like the rest of our football team.
You have any other guys that are together, as far as able to work out together?
We're in a voluntary phase, Paul. We're not monitoring the workouts. I can control the players that show up on a virtual setting. So I'm sure guys are getting together, but I'm not monitoring it and I'm not tracking it.
Eric Baccarat.
Hey, Mike. We know the type of impact crowd noise can have in a game. I'm curious if you've thought at all just what it might be like playing games with no fans.
Again, they haven't told me that we're going to have fans or that we're not going to have fans. What they've told me is that we're going to extend the virtual basically off-season program till May 29th. And that's what I'm planning for. That's what I told our coaches again this morning. And after that, then I'll listen to what they tell us, and I'll read the memo that they send me, and I'll make adjustments from there. But as of looking forward to the season, we got a lot of work to do before we get to that point. You understand every year is a process, and you have to build, and this year is unique in its own sense. It is much different than anything we've ever been through. But our players are facing and I think dealing with the distraction very well.
Buck? Buck, you there? Tehran?
What's going on, Coach? Hope all is well.
Hi, TD.
With A.J. Brown and what he did last year, obviously that was outstanding, but you want improvement. So what are some of the things you're looking to him as far as making that improvement from his last year?
I think there's some route, some things at the top of the route that we always can work on. The one thing that, always is going to stand out is making sure we're strong with the football. We're taking care of the football, our ball security. And I think being able to use his hands in a manner that allows him to be physical, but not, draw penalties. And I think that trying to talk to the officiating department and AJ, there's things that I can help him do and that Rob and Arthur can help him do that allows him to play physical, but hopefully put him out of harm's way from offensive pass interference. So, there's plenty for AJ and the rest of our football team to try to improve on.
Chris Harris?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Great, Chris. Thank you.
Good. My question is just about the rookies in the virtual setting. What kind of sense are you getting from them as far as their ability to pick stuff up as quickly as you would like? And then, because obviously it's a detriment them not being able to take it from there to the field. So what kind of give and take have you gotten from them that leads you to believe they're on the right path?
Well, I think this is a sharp group. I talked to these guys about building a routine as far as how when they're gonna get up, when they're gonna have breakfast, when they're gonna mix in, when they're gonna find time to work out. They have their meeting schedule. They've operated around the different meeting rooms, from a position meeting to a special teams meeting to a player engagement meeting. And I think probably for the younger player, this may be easy. Maybe some of these players have had online classes or had classes similar to what we're doing now. But I think that from everything that I've seen, that these players they're locked in, they're engaged, they're asking questions, and we're finding ways to teach these guys and test them on the information.
Thank you.
Jane Slater?
Hey, Coach. Following up on that, I just wanted to ask, just what does a typical day look like in these virtual OTAs? When does it start? How is it structured?
So somebody's having a little snack. So I tried to figure out a way. The one thing I thought we were going to miss the most from this virtual setting was the player leadership and accountability. So I'd asked the veterans at different positions to come up with the time and organize the time that they wanted to meet between 10 and 2. And I said that obviously the coaches would be available. So the different players came up with meeting time for their position. And we worked special teams in there. So anytime between 10 and 2, or excuse me, the meeting will start at 10:45 to 2. But from 10 until 2, that's our window to work. And then the rookies are kind of on a different plan. They have a little bit longer meeting time that they can be in there. So their meetings would probably be with a position coach from 10 to 11, special teams meeting at 11:30. We'd give them a break for lunch, and then they'd finish up with a position meeting, and then Chick and his staff would have a player engagement meeting at 3 o'clock to cover anything from benefits, HR. Some of our players are talking to them today. We have 4 players that are going to talk to those rookies today about transitioning in the NFL. The NFLPA meets with them. And there's different groups that we have in this program that Chick and I, think that are important for these rookies to hear about. Financial planning. So that's the Rookies Day.
Steve Lehman.
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm
Great,
curious
Steve.
on something you briefly touched on earlier about finding out from the NFL that this virtual window now extends to the end of May. How important is that to what you're trying to accomplish in the offseason? And I guess to follow that, are you assuming that will be it, or do you think there's a chance that could get extended, or maybe even facilities might open and you get a little time before, say, training camp?
I would just say that as sensitive as and serious as this pandemic is, I wasn't planning on having our players until sometime in training camp when this whole thing started. So I would say that everything that I had in my mind and the schedules that I tried to put together and installation schedules had that in mind. And if that changes, then we can adjust pretty easily. But I would say that I'm going to operate and conduct business and meetings as such that we're probably not going to get these guys back. But that could change. And again, we know that till May 29th, that's what it's going to be. And then probably sometime before that, they'll tell us what the next step is.
And how much more can you get done in these next 2 weeks than if you had to cut it off on Friday like originally planned?
Well, if they were going to get cut off on Friday, then that meant they would be coming into the building. Is that what you mean?
No. The way I understood it from a report earlier today, the virtual time was supposed to end at the end of this week, and now they've extended it to May. How much more can you get done by that being the case?
I mean, it was all my understanding that it was the only way that it would end, I guess, is if the facilities opened. I mean, it wouldn't, it was still going to be, they were going to still try to get the 8 or 9 week program. So that's how I interpreted it, that this is what it was going to be to start. And we're hopeful that the facilities could open, and apparently they're not, and it got extended till the 29th. And we'll operate under these rules until they say it's safe to enter into the facilities. And then when everybody can go into their facilities, that's when we'll go in there, because it's clearly would be a competitive advantage for 18 or 20 teams to go in and some teams not to be able to go in.
Buck is back with us. Buck.
Sorry, Mike.
That's okay, Buck.
It's good to talk to you.
You too, buddy.
Are you comfortable with an imperfect solution on that? If teams, from the purposes of competitive advantage, if teams can't get in the facility at the same time?
I don't think it would be right for anybody to go in when some other teams couldn't. No, I think that's, the one thing, there's things that make the NFL unbelievably competitive and the most popular sport is that it is competitive. There is a draft. There is the salary cap. There's rules that we operate under. And so I would assume that it's only right that if a handful of teams can't go in, then we shouldn't either. We would be gaining an advantage on those teams that couldn't go. So we'll keep doing this business as business is being done.
Thanks.
A couple of follow-ups. John Glennon.
Yeah, Mike, I'd hate to let a Zoom go by without a question about Clowney. Just wondering if you yourself had spoken to him at all during this whole free agency process, and if so, if you've got any idea of his train of thought or a timetable.
I've not talked to JD.
All right, sir.
Paul Kaharski.
Sorry, is Simmons still working with trainers, and who else is in the building under that policy?
Jeffrey is still currently working with Todd and Frank under the rehab protocol. And then there are, a handful of players that are on that list that are going in and using the building. There are some other players that would qualify for that are not in the building, which it's where they rehab is voluntary. And I know that those players that aren't are in constant communication with Todd and his staff and also with with our doctors.
Jim Wyatt.
Mike, just you're such a hands-on coach. I know you've talked about this before, but what's it like for you, now that we're a couple of months into this, that you're not able to have contact with players, you're having to do all this virtually at home? Is it killing you? Just what's it like for you from a personal standpoint?
No, man, we would only, this is great. This allows me to go in and visit and sit and watch our coaches teach and try to, provide value in those meetings. And really just talk to the players and, during a break or add input into those meetings. The way that this is set up, it's no different than I would leave my office and walk out along that main hallway and go into the offensive line meeting room at 9:50 and Ben's in there and Taylor's in there and Roger's in there and, Zach Kern's in there and they're waiting for their 10 o'clock meeting to start. And, we catch up and we talk, and then at 10:30, I'll go and walk down the hallway and pop into another Zoom meeting and then go into the DBs and watch and help install or talk about things that they're doing. And so I'm kind of working around that schedule and have really tried to just embrace the process, enjoy and try to help our coaches teach.
Last one, Teresa started us. I think she'll finish us up.
Mike, you've always been a guy who, values and carves away time for family while working. But in these last couple months of being at home, is there anything that you've seen that maybe you want to tweak once life gets back to some semblance of normalcy and back in the facility?
I'd like to send my kids on vacation, Teresa. So that I do know. No, I mean, you just appreciate family. You appreciate, where you work and the people that you work with. That's what makes work special. I love what I do. I care a lot about our players. I care a lot about their families and their well-being. And I care about our coaches. So we're going to stay as safe and healthy as we possibly can. And then certainly going to embrace the opportunity to get back to work at St. Thomas Sports Park. We have an unbelievable facility. And when they say it's safe to go back in there, that's when we're going to head back in.